Hey everybody, I'm Alexis. Welcome back to my channel. So in this video, I want to talk about a few different frameworks that I've used for goal setting and accomplishing my goals and getting things done, because I think as an INTJ, we understand goal setting, and that is one of our favorite things, self-improvement, goal setting. And then when push comes to shove, sometimes they don't actually get done. It's the goal setting and the planning that's fun, but the actual SE work of getting it done or the TE work of getting it done isn't necessarily as fun. So I have 6 frameworks that I've used to accomplish my goals, and they're different ones are useful at different times. So if it sounds interesting to you, then go ahead and keep on watching. Okay, so the first framework that I've used to accomplish my goals is one of the easiest, and it's just that I make deals with people. So I felt like I was kind of in a loop the last couple months and I was not uploading videos, and it was one of my goals that I wanted to upload a certain amount of videos this year to get a certain amount of subscribers this year, you know, to follow along with the lifelong vision. But I just was not actually getting it done. Like when push came to shove and it was time to film a video, SE didn't want to do it. I didn't want to talk. Been kind of in a loop the last couple months. So I finally had to, we got to get creative. What's a way that this is actually going to get done beyond setting the goal? And I just made a deal with my husband. He had a goal that he wanted to do. I had a goal that I wanted to do. And so we just made a deal. We said, okay, I will accomplish mine as long as you accomplish yours for the next 3 weeks. And so I'm on the last week of it, and it's been really helpful because I think it gets us a little bit more extroverted, like with TE, to say, I'm making like a goal with you. I'm collaborating with you to achieve this thing. And I think it's really important to get more extroverted. And when people are relying on me, I tend to I get things done really well. As an individual enterprise, I don't necessarily get it done as well. So that's the first thing, is just making deals with people, because we are very loyal and we really care about their success. Like, of course, I really care about my husband's success, sometimes more about his than my own. And so it's a really good way to hold you accountable, to realize, hey, if I don't do this, actually something is at stake, and maybe my husband won't grow and develop as much as he could if I don't do this. The second way that I've actually made myself accomplish my goals is by giving myself a point system. So I talked about this in another video, which I will link. But basically, I was very depressed and I needed a way to get out of depression, and I needed a way to get out of depression. I was just not doing it. So I had the goal to get out of it. I had tried different things, but I just couldn't get myself to actually do it. So what I did is I told myself, okay, here's some things that make me happy. Drinking water, hanging out with friends. I made a list of all these things that make me happy, and then I assigned them points. So for things that I felt like really made me happy, those were worth like 10 points. Smaller things, I gave like 2 points. And I told myself that by the end of the day, for the next month, every day I needed to get 30 points. And it really helped me. As soon as I started associating my goal with numbers and metrics, then it became a lot more objective. Either I did get 30 points or I didn't, and it wasn't so intangible, like, oh, how happy was I today? And I think, especially when I'm in a loop, just FI is not helpful to me. It's just, it always, for me, a lot of times FI has a negative bent. It's like, are you being authentic to yourself? No. Do you feel shame? Yes. That's so simplistic, but that is how FI operates in my life. So the more I can get out of that shame cycle and more into action and associating things with numbers, the more I accomplish my goals. Another thing that I've done is set myself up a rubric in order to accomplish my goals. So I just realized that I think TE users do really well in school. Just the concept of you like maybe write an essay, you create a product that is submitted for feedback. They give it back to you in the form of a number, maybe with comments. And so that's really helpful for me. And then I could tell this is how I can improve. This is what the number was. But then as soon as you get into the workforce, you're not getting that much feedback from your boss, and it's not in the form of numbers probably. So I was like, well, I need to figure out how I'm being successful, because otherwise I'm just sitting here in the FI shame pit feeling like, oh, I'm not accomplishing my goals. I need to say, okay, what are my goals? What does success look like to me? If I was gonna make a rubric for being successful at my job, what would like maybe 4 main tenets be of success in my job? And I made myself a rubric and I gave myself a score. At the end of the week, I would average it, what was my score for the week, and then that's how I knew I was being successful. Because as a teacher, I've got the principal, I've got students' parents, they all want different things, and I would feel like as soon as I started to make gains with one of those groups, then the other group wasn't happy. So I decided to say, okay, what does success look like to me? And if I meet my own criteria for success, then I'm doing pretty good. Another way that I've accomplished my goals, just for efficiency purposes, I've made a checklist before. So I've done this with lesson plans. I've also done this with video creation, where I just say, okay, step 1, you do a brainstorm of what you want to talk about. Step 2, you cross out the things that are important and you sequence it. Step 3, you make sure that you add in vulnerability, and I try to make sure. So I basically made a template and a checklist for, like, if it's something repetitive that you do, like for example, it's repetitive that I make videos or create lesson plans. And so I made myself like a checklist, and then in some instances a template, and then I would just fill it in as I go. For lesson plans, I just made myself a chart, and I printed it out and I just write down this part, this part, this part, and this part, because I just found that other lesson plans weren't what I wanted, and like there are certain things that I want, like maybe a game or some fun activity that a traditional lesson plan doesn't include, and I just want to make sure that I'm mixing things up. The thing about this is, as time went on, like with my YouTube template, I made it unnecessarily complicated. I would add in, oh, I want this, oh, I want this, oh, I want this, to the point where it's now 5 pages long. And just to look at it, it's like, ugh, this is overwhelming, and it just leads to procrastination. I've made it too detailed, almost too perfect, to the point that TE doesn't want to use it. It's not frictionless enough, seamless enough. So that's something to be careful of. Make sure FI doesn't make things too ideal. Like, it needs to be usable to TE, it needs to be usable to SE, because we know the INTJ form of SE can be pretty lazy and not wanting to do anything. So as long as you can make the experience as efficient and seamless as possible, I think that's really important. The next thing I've done that's been really good, I think, for being an INTJ is to reverse engineer into weekly plans. So what that has looked like is I made myself life goals, broke that down into 2020 goals, broke that down into quarterly goals. From there, I took those and broke those down into monthly action steps, weekly action steps, and daily action steps. Because I think the fun part is the planning. I mean, it's really fun to do like the first 3, but then as soon as they get to smaller and smaller increments of time, it's not as fun, and now you're getting more into the realm of TE and SE carrying out that action, and it's not as much NI land anymore. Like, it actually, push comes to shove and you got to get the stuff done, and that's when it becomes not as much fun anymore, when it's not planning. I think SE just needs some help, and it needs to basically run on autopilot. Like, I need to have decided a month ago what I'm doing today, and then SE's like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna do it. Because if it takes too much brainstorming and action, then I just won't do it. So it's really important to make it as easy as possible for SE, because it can be a little lazy on our parts. And then finally, the last thing, and I think this has been one of the most valuable things that get me to get stuff done. And I don't know, because it's a little oriented toward FI, which I'm already bent toward a little bit, or what, but basically I just wrote down on a whiteboard, these are the things that I think would really be good for me, would really show some significant growth in my life, but I don't want to do them because they scare me. So I just wrote down on a whiteboard, these are the 5 things. If I wasn't scared, I would do them, and I think they would produce strong growth in my life, but they scare me. And I've just been chipping away at them. So of the 5 I wrote down, I've gotten 3 done, and for whatever reason, the phrasing of that, I really connect with and have been able to get those things done. And it's helped that it's relatively simple. It's just 5 things. I gave myself a deadline, like by the end of the year, I want to get these 5 things done. And I think I feel really accomplished knowing that I've done something that scares me. So yeah, I hope you found that helpful. Those are kind of 6 different ways that I've actually accomplished my goals. I mean, like I said, the setting of goals is the fun part, the planning of goals is the fun part, but actually getting them done is the part that is not as fun. So I hope you found this helpful, enjoyable. I've appreciated you guys so much. The way that you guys talk about, like just the kind comments that you have left saying this really related, like I really related to this. This was posted at just the right time. I needed to hear this. Yeah, I just really appreciate how growth-oriented INTJs are, and so I really appreciate the comments that are self-reflective. I think it encourages me to produce more of that content. You know, when I think sometimes INTJs have a hard time with vulnerability, but I think it's really beautiful when you can get a culture of people that in general have a hard time with vulnerability, like with strangers, but to create that, I think is really beautiful. So anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate you. Bye.